Welcome back to the 5-7 podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pre, and today we're going to talk about the unfortunate murder of George Floyd. Now, there's a lot to be said about this because this is an incredibly unfortunate event, and before we get ahead of ourselves, if you just watch the video, it's pretty clear cut of what happens, and there's a lot of things that are going wrong, I would say, with society, and I would say with law enforcement. Now, I'm a very big proponent of supporting law enforcement, and I'm a very big supporter of first responders in general and the military. But I think that it's okay to say that to support law enforcement and condemn poor law enforcement behavior. So first off, there's a lot of people that are very emotional about this, okay? And that's completely understandable. And one of the things that's wrong with the entire sphere and scope of what's going on is our perspective of everything. We see from the outside, a cop with his knee on a black guy and automatically think of racism, and we think of police brutality, and we think of, this poor behavior. And what we need to be thinking about is, why aren't police officers getting the appropriate amount of training so that they know how to handle these situations? Now, obviously the guy is in cuffs. He's laying down on his stomach. And I understand the need to subdue somebody, but you don't need 4 guys to be laying on one person. Now, it also depends on the situation, because we can't just sit back and say, that could never happen, because there could be a situation where some guy is just going completely off the chain and he needs to be subdued. That's a completely different scenario. When someone's laying there and they say that, they can't breathe, and there's multiple witnesses there, you shouldn't have your knee on a guy's neck. When the guy is subdued and he's cuffed, there needs to be another procedure in place than having your knee on the back of somebody's neck. Now, I think that if police could get training on some of these situations, on what to do, I think that would be really helpful for them. I think that it would be really helpful for the community as well, to put these guys through some more advanced training than what they're getting. I think that putting them through stress training and putting them in stressful situations in a training environment can help them when they get into these situations on the street and on the job. Now, having being a police officer is a rough job, because it's sometimes a 6-day-a-week job. Sometimes guys are working extended hours, and they go out there and they go on one call and someone is breaking into a car, so they need to address this situation. In the next situation, they could get a call where they're going on a domestic violence dispute, okay? And then they can go on another call where some girl calls the cops because her parents aren't giving her what she wants, and she's upset, and they have to deal with something like that. And then go to another situation where maybe a guy or a woman is having a flat tire, and they get out to give them a hand, So there's multiple situations that these guys can get in, and they're not all the same. Sometimes they're coming up, they're coming down, and the stress level can be high, and obviously their emotions can be off because of the type of work that they have to do. And it's important for us to understand that. It's also important for us to understand that us as a society, we give police officers the duty to and the authority to enforce the law, and we need to understand that they're protectors of the law, and their job is to uphold the law, and also be civil servants. On the opposite side of that, police officers need to understand that what they're doing isn't just a job. What they're doing is a civil service, and they are essentially, representatives and guardians of the peace, and they should act accordingly with their behavior. Now, I think that a lot of problems that we're having is coming from what we in society are having is a lack of respect for authority and a lack of respect for people. I think that generally people don't understand that there truly is a hierarchy in life, that there is a social order in life, that there are some people, for lack of a better terms, are considered with more higher regard than other people. And it's something that we need to accept, and it's important that we accept our lot in life and who we are and what we are. And that being said, that there needs to be respect for people that are in positions of authority, and there needs to be respect for our peers and the fellow citizens of society. Now, is this a complete act of racism? That's yet to be said. I haven't heard any stories about this guy being a racist, but I have heard stories that he's had multiple complaints about him, and that he's had two instances of discipline from those 18 complaints within internal affairs from others. Now, is that a Chicago? I'm sorry, not Chicago. Is that a police union problem where somebody's getting complaint after complaint after complaint, and he can't get fired because of union rules? These are just things that I'm speculating about, but things that could also be issues. Now, what could we do to solve this? Number one, I don't think rioting helps anything. I understand that people are upset. I understand that people want justice, and justice, I'm more than positive, will come to this situation. But most importantly, I think what we want is change. Now, I read a report about that there were a lot of people that were peacefully protesting in Minneapolis, and there was a group of people that were looting, setting things on fire, that local community leaders said they didn't know who they were. So these could be people coming from outside neighborhoods just coming into Minneapolis to wreak havoc because they don't know any better. And that goes into another, that's a completely different discussion on why people would not know what right from wrong is. Now, this isn't just a blanket statement to say that, whatever these things happen, people start turning on their towns and they start burning everything down. Obviously, it's wrong. Obviously, you have people that are coming around and wreaking havoc and chaos, and that's not what you do. And it's not conducive to changing things or making things better in any way. Going and burning down an AutoZone isn't going to help anything. If you go down and you burn down a police precinct, that needs to get repaired. And where does that money come from? It comes from the taxpayers of that town. So, and it comes from the taxpayers in general, period. So why would you want to cause damage on property that's essentially is just going to be coming out of your pocket? It doesn't make sense because you're upset. If you're mad and you're pissed off because this is happening, then you need to freaking do something about it. And going out and burning buildings down and wreaking havoc with cops is not going to change things. What you need to do is get an education and try changing things from the inside, making a difference, being a leader in your community, making changes where you can start programs for underprivileged youth so that they're not out on the streets on their spare time all the time. So these gangs can come in and manipulate these young kids and giving them a false sense of power or just or just generally kids grouping up together and thinking that they're going to go out and do some shit and it's going to be cool and it's going to be all right. It's like, yeah, we're going to go and show them that we're going to go and we're going to go burn down the police station. We don't have jobs and we're not paying taxes anyway. So, who gives a shit, and that's just it's a poor attitude to have. And I'm not saying that everybody has this attitude. I'm saying that there's a small demographic of people that have this attitude, and it needs to change. And in order for that to change, it has to start from the top. The mayor needs to lead in this and heal his town, and maybe start programs for people so that these kids aren't out there just running around doing whatever, that they have things to do, that there's programs for them to do. This is essentially just me kind of just going off and giving my opinion on this, which is precisely why I do the podcast. And I also do it because this information needs to get out there. And most importantly, I think that we need to come together as people and understand that, we're all in this together, that we all live here together, and we're all going to have to fix this problem together. There isn't just one person that can do it. You can't just have the police chief that's going to completely systemically change a problem. It needs to come down to the people and what they expect from law enforcement, and it has to be from law enforcement have to express what they expect from people, and obviously cooperation is one thing, and accountability is another, and that goes to both sides. So on my last note here, I want to say that I think that if if police officers are not getting the training that they need from their police, from their precincts, they need to go out and they need to seek this training on their own then, because they are living this job, and this job needs extensive training. And if you are not getting it at work, and you're not getting the opportunities to get it at work, you're going to need to get it on your own, because this is your career, and you need to be the best cop that you can be, best law enforcement official that you can be, and you need to make sure that you're out there making the right decisions all the time, as much as possible. I know it's impossible to make the right decision all the time, and I know that there's a lot of stress put on police officers because there's a lot of good guys out there, but the bad apples always come out and ruin it for the good guys. I've encountered a lot of good police officers in my day. I know some good police officers, and they're great guys. And these guys who are, doing these criminal acts as police officers are really making these good guys look bad. And there's always one bad apple in the group. If in any job, anyone who's listening to this knows that there's somebody at work that doesn't toe the line as much as everybody else, and they don't maybe work as hard as everybody else or put out as much effort as everybody else. And everybody knows that bad apple, and they're always there. I'm sure it's the same thing in the police force, where there's one guy, there's one bad apple, and you know what, these guys need to be weeded out. If they're not fitting in, or there's something going on about them. There's nothing against the blue code for holding your peers accountable. And if somebody's jacked up, you need to hold them responsible and tell them to tighten it up. So that's what I have for you today, guys. It's really unfortunate situation with George Floyd. I feel for his family, and I feel for the community, and if there's some change that needs to start, it could start with anybody. It could start with anybody. I believe it. So if you're a police officer out there and you're listening to this, try to get more training. If you feel that you are not getting the training that you need, go out and get it. There's a lot of companies, a lot of veterans out there that are doing classes, that are doing stress related training, med training, that can help. So take that with a grain of salt if you need to, or take it the whole way, I guess. So that's what I got for you today, guys. I appreciate you guys listening. Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. This is Pre out.